Okay, hello folks. How you guys doing out there? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? So, welcome. And let's jump right into it. So, we have lots of stuff as always to talk about today. But before we get into it, let's take a look at where we're at. I think we're getting pretty close to the end on this one. What is this, about 3/4 of the way finished? You can't really see the entire thing here. It kind of goes a little. But I think it's coming along, so we'll keep working on this for the time being. Anyway, yeah, Donald Trump is gone. Very nice. Ex-president Donald Trump. It's very satisfying to say that. But that doesn't mean that everything suddenly is going to be back to the way it was, or even, good, right? There has been, I'm sure you're seeing in the news here stories about, how badly exactly the Trump administration kind of botched everything, just kind of ruined everything. The latest thing to come out is that there was no COVID-19 plan in place at all. There was no national strategy plan at all in order to distribute vaccines, which I don't know why that's such a surprise to everybody, because it's not like they had a national testing plan, right, at all, because they didn't, right? They didn't have any kind of coordinated, PPE or anything like that. If you remember back through the last year, they kind of left all of that up to the states, right? They had, when it first hit, Trump put, of course, his idiot son-in-law in charge of the pandemic, right? Jared Kushner, who had no experience doing anything like this at all. I mean, if Jared Kushner's career was in real estate, and lo and behold, he sucked at it, right? So I don't know why you would put someone whose experiences in real estate in charge of pandemic response. Jared Kushner was also in charge of the Mideast peace process. Let's not forget that either. Anyway, so yeah, it kind of makes perfect sense that you put an incompetent person in charge of something, you're going to get really crappy results, and that's what happened. There is no national plan for vaccines distributions whatsoever. And not only that, we find out that today, so basically, yeah, the Biden people are having to craft a plan from the very ground up. Usually what would happen is that they would come in and they would take whatever the prior administration, whatever work they had, and they would tweak it. They would, see where the need was, if they needed more money for this or that or something, if there was more need for vaccines in this area versus that one, and they would just tweak that plan and use the existing infrastructure, that kind of thing, right? Turns out they don't have any of that, because there was no plan at all. To nobody's surprise, zero planning, right, for distributing vaccines. Not only that, but it turns out that there was, the Trump people were claiming that they had an excess of vaccines. They had a stockpile of vaccines ready to go, and were just, hadn't distributed them yet. And it turns out that was a complete lie. They do not have a stockpile of vaccines. There is no excess vaccine, right? The Trump people simply lied about that, and in order to make themselves not look incompetent. So we are doubly screwed. That means that not only are they going to have to, create the plan to distribute the vaccines, they're going to have to actually manufacture and buy the vaccines to begin with. So, Biden's plan is to vaccinate 100 million people in 100 days. That's not going to happen. It's, you know, if it happens, it'll be a miracle. Let's put it that way. I hope it does. I hope it does happen. I can't wait to get a goddamn vaccine, right? Because I want to go to the movies and I want to fucking eat sushi and I would like to go shopping without, you know, and go outside and go to fucking Disneyland and I want to go do shit now. You know, I've been I'm sure like everybody else, you know, I'm sure you're getting a little bit of cabin fever. I mean, I fucking am. You know, I haven't gone outside for a goddamn year almost. Like seriously, the only thing I got dinner once last year in October and you know, we went because it was my anniversary and I was like scared while we were doing it. While we were eating out, I was like, you know what, we shouldn't fucking do this. Right? I would like to go get ramen and not be paranoid that I'm going to die in 2 weeks after that. Dynacat, hey, what's happening, man? Thanks for joining. So, yeah, anyway, it's going to take a little while for shit to get back to normal, political wise. But, you know, it's nice to actually have some competent people in charge. You know, you notice that none of Biden's relatives are in the administration. His son is not in charge of anything. His wife is not in charge of anything, right? His best friends have not been put into positions of power. You know, stuff like that. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to see that the people that he's putting in power, while they may not be the most progressive people, right? At least there's a little bit of competence there. At least you can go, okay, well, you know, this guy that he's putting in charge as secretary of whatever, you know, I mean, maybe he might be a corporatist or some shit like that, but at least you don't have to worry about, you know, that particular area of the government being run by a complete fool, right? Because that's kind of what we had. That's kind of what we had for 5 years. It wasn't just the fact that, you know, they were conservative and that they were enacting conservative policies. It was the fact that the people that were in charge were just completely inept and didn't really give a shit. And that kind of goes, you know, that kind of goes along with the whole Republican theory of government. You know, Republicans tend to not want government to work well because they want to cut everything, you know, cut the government down to a size of a, you know, of a cat that they can drown in a bathtub or whatever. So if they actually do a good job and are competent at their work, it kind of proves that government works. So it's kind of on purpose almost, right? Now, I think in the case of the Trump administration, it wasn't really on purpose so much that, you know, he didn't put incompetent people on there and so much on purpose. It's just I think those were the only people who wanted to work for him. I don't know if you remember back in 2017, Donald Trump actually had problems getting people to work for him, right? A lot of the prominent Republicans kind of said thanks but no thanks and didn't want to take positions in his administration. And it's almost kind of like they knew that it was going to be a shit show from the beginning, you know. So he didn't really get the top, you know, the cream of the crop to begin with when it came to people to staff his administration with, right? So anyway, the main thing I want to talk about in this stream, however, is what happens now with the MAGA cultist people, specifically QAnon. Because although they weren't the only, you know, Trump fans, and not all Trump people were QAnon believers, you know, they're in the news lately because of what happened on the 6th and all of that stuff. And a lot of them are really kind of melting down now. And it's kind of fascinating. It's like watching a religion unravel, you know, in real time. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it's like watching QAnon now, because there was a lot of I guess hype coming from these people saying that, you know, Any day now, the shit's gonna hit the fan. Trust the plan. The storm's coming. All this crap. And then Donald Trump loses the election, and they're like, it's all part of the plan. Trust the plan. Keep it going. And then the election gets certified, and they're like, and they keep moving the goalposts, right? Now finally, Biden is sworn in, and it's like this is sort of like the last chance, right, for their I guess prophecies to come true. Right. They're not even predictions at this point. They're prophecies. There's a difference between a prediction and a prophecy, right? Because a prediction is, such and such event is going to happen on this day, right? And, at this hour, at this time, whatever, right? A prophecy is just more like a vague sort of, one day, and that's why, like, when you watch movies, like, and they say the prophecy of the Trojan one or whatever in some fucking movie, it's always in some riddle or like, there's a saying that one day a man would come from the east and blah, 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 right? It's always like that. That's what a prophecy is. It's this vague sort of, it'll happen one day when you see the signs of blah, 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 right? And that's what it's sort of turning into now. They're leaving prediction category, the prediction category, and they're going into the prophecy category, right? Which is very much, indicative of a religion. And that's what QAnon, I think, is turning into at this point. QAnon is hitting a crisis of faith right now. And I think it's going to emerge from this and be a very much more of a religious or movement, because right now, like, up until this point, QAnon was a conspiracy, but, conspiracies and stuff like that, but it was also a political movement. That's what QAnon was, mainly a political movement, right? We need to support Donald Trump because he's going to do this, this, and this, and expose these, Satan-worshipping pedophiles and take over the, country, blah, 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 right? That was the main gist of QAnon. It was like the main theory behind QAnon. Because remember, QAnon has always been bullshit, right? It's always been bullshit. And the, when it first started, right, I remember exactly the moment that QAnon started, right? And it was on 2017. It was on October 6th, 2017. And what it was that Donald Trump was at an event with his top generals, right, from the Pentagon. And they were talking about North Korea, because at that point, there was like tensions with North Korea. He was calling them names, Little Rocket Man, shit like that. Sean Nillabud, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? As always, I will read your comments at the end of the stream. So anything that you want me to talk about, go ahead and put it in the comments. Thank you for joining, though, Sean. So yeah, I remember exactly the moment QAnon started. Donald Trump was at an event with his generals, and they were having dinner, right? And after the dinner, he got up and there was a photo op, right? In fact, I have the video of it, so let me just go ahead and open this.
Meet your next.
And let me silence this so that until I can get past the commercial, because it's YouTube, and YouTube always puts those 5-second commercials in front of shit. All right, so let me turn on my left monitor. So this is Donald Trump at a photo. These are all of his top guys, generals and shit. I think this guy over here is I can't remember this dude's name, but anyway, this is when it started. So oh wait, I turned on the wrong monitor. There you go. This is the right monitor. Sorry about that. So okay, anyway, here we go.
We'll be looking into that over the next short period of time. We'll be looking into that over the next short period of
Does the
time.
NRA announcement provide some affirmation of the need to make changes?
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. We have had challenges that we really should have taken. But recently, we have had challenges that we really should have taken care of a long time ago, like North Korea, Iran, Afghanistan, ISIS, and the revisionist powers that threaten our interests all around the world.
By the way, aren't you just so fucking happy this asshole is gone? Like, just listening to this guy talk. I mean, he sounds like, God. He sounds like a fucking child. Just listen to, like, the inflection of his voice and the words he chooses. And it's kind of, I don't know, man. I seriously, like, the last couple of days, I've slept better than I have in, like, 5 years. And it's like, God, thank God this fucking idiot's gone. Anyway, when does he say it? He says it, like, back here, I think. There's, like, a photo op. I think he says it over here. So.
Discussing it further.
Right, so he's at, like, this
You guys know
photo
what
op
this
here.
represents?
Tell us, sir.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the
See
storm?
that?
Could be.
All right, let me do it again because I kind of talked over it.
You guys know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm. We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming.
See that? It was that one offhand comment right there. It's the calm before the storm, right? That one comment right there, that's what started QAnon, right? So, let me turn that off, all right? That one little comment, and what was that comment? Why did he say that, right? Because then he goes on to say, they ask him, what does that mean? And he just says, you'll find out, right? He doesn't like, you know, he just basically is like, afterward is like, oh, you'll see. Right, he doesn't elaborate on it. So then after that little press conference there and that little offhand comment, right, there was all this theorizing, and everybody was like, oh, what is Trump talking about? What's he mean? Calm before the storm, you know? Is he going to start a war? Because they were just talking about, you know, North Korea and Iran and all of that shit, right? And like, you know, so there was all this like, in the news, everybody's like theorizing, and people are like, you know, oh, there's some shit's going to happen, you know? And I remember this specifically on 4chan because, you know, I occasionally lurk in 4chan. I try not to post there because it's an exercise in futility. But, you know, I lurk there just to kind of see what people are thinking and to kind of keep abreast of what's happening in the, you know, right-wing insane circles there, right? And plus, you know, a lot of the memes and shit that we all talk about, and a lot of the things, you know, that we end up talking about online originates in places like 4chan. So it's like, you know, I occasionally pop in to see what's happening, right? And I remember people were talking about this, and they were going like, theorizing, and what does it mean? Is there going to be a war? Is it this, that? What does the storm mean? And all that, right? And not so long after that, there was this post. Let's see, do I have it here? Let me see, I think I do. Oh, did I not save it? Ah, yes I did. Okay. There was this post that was posted to 4chan, right? This is the very, very first QAnon post. Okay. So let me make this a little bigger in case you guys can't read it from home. But this is the very, very first QAnon. Oh, well, actually, no, that kind of, you know, I don't know. Well, I'm sure you can see it, right? Anyway, somebody posted this, and this is about 2 weeks later on the 28th in October 2017, right? and they're talking about HRC is Hillary Rodham Clinton. They're talking about Hillary Clinton's extradition, right? Because you remember the big thing that Donald Trump ran on was that he was going to lock her up. You know, he was going to take Hillary Clinton and throw her in jail for whatever crimes it was that she committed. Nobody could actually name any of the crimes that she committed, right? Because, you know, you have to have proof before you can throw somebody in jail, you know, but that didn't matter to the Trump people, right? So there was this theory that, you know, they were going to extradite Hillary Clinton. You know, I don't know why they would need to extradite her from what other country? Was she in a different country or some shit? I mean, doesn't she live in fucking New York? Right? Anyway, HRC extradition is already in motion, effective yesterday with several countries in case she a cross-border run. Oh, okay. So in case she runs away, I guess they can extradite her. Okay. Passport approved to be flagged effective 10:30 at 12:01 a.m. Expect massive riots organized in defense and defiance, and others fleeing the U.S. to occur. USM's military, the USM military's operations will conduct the operation while National Guard is activated. Proof check located National Guard member and ask if activated for duty on 10:30 across most major cities. So that didn't happen. Obviously, Hillary Clinton was not arrested. The military, you know, did not arrest Hillary Clinton while the National Guard was deployed to major cities on October 30th of 2017. But let's continue. Here's the second post here. Mockingbird. I don't know what that means. Man, is that some kind of conspiracy theory thing? I don't know. HRC detained, not arrested yet. She was not detained. She was not arrested. Where is Huma? Follow Huma. Huma Abedinejad was Hillary Clinton's assistant. She's the one that they found the laptop, you know. She was the one that was married to Anthony Weiner, and she divorced him because he kept, like, hitting on underage girls on the internet and shit. And then they found her, they found Ahmadinejad's, Huma, what's her name? They found her, laptop, and it had some of the Hillary Clinton's emails, which were supposed to be proof of her committing all this crime, but in real life wasn't. Anyway, this has nothing to do with Russia yet. Why does POTUS surround himself with generals? What is military intelligence? Why go around the three-letter agencies? What Supreme Court case allows for the use of military intelligence and congressional assembled and approved agencies? Who has ultimate authority over our branches of military without approval conditions unless 90 plus in wartime conditions? What the fuck is that guy talking about? I don't even know what that means. What is the military code? Where is AW being held and why? I think they mean Andrew Weiner at that one, right? President of the United States will not go on live TV to address the nation. President of the United States must isolate himself to prevent negative optics. President knew removing criminal rogue elements as a first step was essential to free and pass legislation. Was essential to free and pass legislation. See, dude, in English, please. Goddamn, man. It's not a tweet. You have room to put actual sentences. Anyway, who has access to everything classified? Do you believe Hillary, Soros, Obama Act have more power than Trump? Fantasy. Whoever controls the office of the presidency controls this great land. They never believed for a moment they, Democrats and Republicans, would lose control. This is not a Republican versus Democrat battle. Why did Soros donate all his money recently? Why would he place all his funds in a RC? I don't know what that means. Mockingbird 10/30/17. God bless fellow patriots. So none of this shit happened. You know, looking back at this 3 years later, it's the ramblings of a conspiracy-addled, you know, nutcase who is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, he just said, this is the very first QAnon post. It says that within 2 days, there's going to be riots and Hillary Clinton is going to be arrested, and, you know, Huma Abedin is going to be arrested, or whatever her name was, and Anthony Weiner was already arrested, she was already detained, and all this shit was going to happen, and none of it fucking happened, right? And somehow that evolved from from that post, which was taken from an offhand comment that Donald Trump said at an event, that snowballed and turned into QAnon, right? And 3 years later, it's become this fucking pseudo religion, right? It went from that to and what it does is that, you know, just like lots of other conspiracy theories, they tend to fold in other existing conspiracy theories. So the Pizzagate people kind of took that and ran with it, right? Hang on, is this okay? This is running out. There's probably enough in there. Anyway, the Pizzagate people took that and kind of grafted Pizzagate onto it, and then like other conspiracy theories were sort of folded in also. So the NWO New World Order conspiracy was folded in there, and you know, that's where the satanic baby kidnapping cannibal aspect came in, because it's like, well, what crimes was Hillary accused of? Right? Oh, it's because she's a fucking baby killer who is, like, you know, kidnapping people. And so it kind of evolved from that into this idea that there's a rogue element in the government, you know, and they call that the deep state, right? And hey, Dynacat, how you doing? Oh wow. As all that. Okay, I'll read all of this stuff. I will, but let me get through this first. All right. This is the main sort of theory that QAnon subscribes to. Okay. So the idea is that there's the deep state, right? The deep state is a group of bad guy agents in the government. You know, the black hats, right? They're the ones who are the baby killers, the ones who are kidnapping children, harvesting, you know, sacrificing them to Satan and harvesting their, you know, pineal glands and shit, right? To get high off of, you know, and what's that? What do they call it? Adrenochrome, I think, adrenochrome or whatever, right? That's what they're claiming, right? And that there's also an opposite faction, the white hats, the good guys who in the government who are trying to expose all these people, right? And of course, Donald Trump is the leader of the white hats, you know. And for some reason, you know, even though they have all of this evidence and all of this shit, they can't just straight up, you know, arrest people. I don't know why, because I guess they're too powerful or some shit. So they have to have this plan, you know, and the plan is, it's basically once they, what they're going to do is once they're ready for some reason, you know, instead of just doing it now if they have all the evidence, right, they're going to have to wait for a little while, and then they're going to declare martial law, right, and the military will then go and arrest all of the perpetrators who just happen to be, you know, Democrats, right, and also some famous Hollywood celebrities are in there. Tom Hanks was supposedly a ringleader in this for some reason, as well as Bill Gates and George Soros and the usual suspects when it comes to right-wing insane conspiracy theories, you know, all of those people. Hillary, of course, Barack Obama, you know, pretty much, you know, Al Franken and Michael Moore, pretty much anybody who was, you know, a prominent liberal or Democrat or progressive, they're all going to be arrested, right? And there's going to be military tribunals, and this will all be, you know, at first it was all going to be put on social media, right? They were going to use Twitter for it, but since Donald Trump got banned from Twitter, instead now it's all going to be done through, you know, broadcast directly to your phone, right? That's how it's going to be, and they're going to take over all of the internet. They're going to take over all your phones, all broadcast TV, and they're going to broadcast this so everybody can see it, right? That's what's going to happen. And that's what's called the storm. So that offhand comment, that little comment where Donald Trump was just bullshitting, right, because he doesn't like dead air. I really think that's why he said that. You know, this is the calm, maybe it's the calm before the storm. I really think that's why he said that. I think he said that because he doesn't like, just not saying anything. He doesn't like dead air. You got to remember, Donald Trump is like a reality TV star person, right? Who, if you're just standing there in front of a camera and nothing's happening, that's that's when people change the channel. People get bored, right? So it's like, I really think that he just sat there and said, shit, I should say something, right? And you notice, like, if you watch that video again, I'll put a link to it. Here's the video that I had. Let me just go into my notes here. Let me just copy link address. Let me put it into the chat here. Paste. Booyah. There you go. When he says that, look at all of the people that are standing there with him. They all kind of look at him, and they sort of make faces like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Right? And it's like there's looks of surprise on their faces, and it's because they kind of realize what's happening. They're like, oh, he's just bullshitting. He's just bullshitting. He wants to get the headline tomorrow. That's really what that was. They took that one little comment and they created this insane, elaborate conspiracy theory worthy of, a best-selling novel, right? Like, it sounds like a fucking action movie, doesn't it? It sounds like a movie where John McClane has to, like, unmask the fucking conspiracy theory, people in Die Hard fucking 12 or whatever in order to save the children from being eaten by satanic cannibals. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it sounds like the next Dan Brown novel. The guy who wrote fucking Angels and Demons and, whatever. Right. That dude. Right? That's what it sounds like, right? And this is where it fucking came from. So anyway, none of that shit happened, obviously, right? I do want to take a little bit and talk about adrenochrome for a little bit, because, I was kind of wondering, like, wow, like when I first heard that, I was like, where did that come from? Adrenochrome, right? So adrenochrome is a drug that is supposedly harvested from these children. The idea is that they're kidnapping children from, like, Haiti and stuff like that, right? And sacrificing them in satanic rituals, right? And pulling out their, pineal gland, right? And the idea is that it terrorizes the children, which makes them produce adrenochrome, and they take this drug from the pineal gland of these children and get high from it, right? This is there's another conspiracy. Part of this conspiracy theory is called frazzle drip, right? That's where this comes from. And supposedly frazzle drip is a video of Hillary Clinton actually doing this, being engaging in a satanic conspiracy with Huma Abedin, right? The same, her assistant. And supposedly they're naked, and they're wearing masks that are made from the skin of the child that they just sacrificed, and they're drinking the kid's blood in this, video, right? And also supposedly this video was on Huma Abedin's laptop, right? Now, think about that. If you actually had a video of anybody, not just Hillary Clinton, but just anybody who was actually doing this, murdering a child, wearing a mask made out of their skin, and drinking their blood, and you had a video and it was proof, and you could prove that this video was not faked, and it wasn't like Hollywood fucking, special effects or whatever, and yes, it really was Hillary Clinton. If you had all of this shit, why would you hesitate to go arrest her, right? Why would you bother doing this? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make it, yes, okay, Hillary Clinton is rich and powerful and has political connections, but so what? They're not going to save her from this, right? I mean, there's no way that it doesn't matter who the hell you are. You could be the president of the United States, and if this video came out, you're gone. That's it. It's over, right? So, yeah, and it's a very, kind of like, oh, they're too powerful, they'll just kill you, blah blah blah. It's this very infantile outlook on the world. This idea that that there are people out there that are just too powerful, and if you try to expose them, a fucking hired hitman is going to show up at your house 5 minutes later and snipe you from 300 yards away or whatever. You know, it's shit that you see in a movie. That's what it is, right? Yeah, Sean Nilbut, I was going to talk about that, Fear and Loathing. But that was actually going to be my next point after this. But anyway, yeah, it's like, it's this, they're getting this idea from movies. That's what it is, The idea that, it's like the Kingpin. He's too strong. If you try to go against him, he'll just kill you. Like, that, like Hillary Clinton is going to hire a fucking Italian mafia guy to, like, track you down, or maybe just a space-based laser will just shoot out of the sky and just fry you where you stand, and then you'll never know, like, what actually happened. Like, it's like this, it's fantasy. It's shit that you see and a lot of this stuff that you get out of conspiracy theories, that's where it comes from. It's stuff that's in movies and TV shows, right? And people see this shit and they think it's real. This is no joke, and that's predictive programming. Like we talked about that later, in some of the earlier streams. And it's just ridiculous where this shit comes from. And that actually leads to the next point that you were talking about, Sean, about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, right? So adrenochrome, if you, in that movie, there's a scene where Dr. Gonzo gives what the fuck is his name? Hunter Thompson, whatever. I think his name's Duke in that movie, right? So Dr. Gonzo gives Duke a little vial of adrenochrome, right? And for him to sample it, right? And there's a line in the book, which I think they actually say it in the movie, which this is where this conspiracy comes from. This is where it originated, where fucking Hunter Thompson says there's only one source for this stuff. And the adrenal glands from a living human body. It's no good if you get it out of a corpse, right? That's what he says, right? So he made that up, okay? Adrenochrome comes from plants in real life, right? It's something that is synthesized. It is not harvested from a living human body. That's fantasy. That's fiction, right? Not only did he make that up, Hunter Thompson, right? Not only is that something that he invented, he also made up the effects of the drug as this, like, insane, this, like, ridiculous, super hyper fucking hallucinogen. Apparently that's complete bullshit, too. And he said it himself in his book that he basically fabricated that. And in real life, because adrenochrome actually does exist in real life, right? But it's not taken from the, it's synthesized from fucking plants. It's not taken from a living adrenal gland of a person, right? Who was murdered in order to, like, extract their fucking pineal gland, right? So, and he said that the actual effects of this drug are like he made all of that up. And in real life, all it really does is give you a headache. And I've actually got a link here, right? I'll just copy this and put this into the, let me paste that, right? Here's a link from Daily Beast that basically talks all about it, right? And there's a particular, I'm not going to open that up, but there's a particular passage from that article that I do want to read, right? Towards the bottom of that article, this is what it says, okay, about adrenochrome. The compound's supposedly psychedelic properties have been debunked, in part by Thompson himself, who repeatedly told Terry Gilliam, director of the Black Comedy's adaptation, that he had invented its effects. Eduardo Hidalgo Downing, a Spanish writer behind the meandering drug memoir Adrenochrome and Other Mythical Drugs, described it as an absolute bullshit, adding that it is of no value in psychoactive terms. It is infinitely more useful to drink a cup of coffee. Right? Even Erowid, the harm reduction nonprofit filled with drug experience reviews, had only negative things to say. Effects were extremely weak, absolutely not fun or psychedelic in any way, one user wrote. Another user, in a review titled Worst Headache Imaginable, described a racing heartbeat, profuse sweating, and a headache that would have brought down an elephant. The incapacitating pain allegedly subsided after 2 hours, but recurred periodically for the next 7 days. I had absolutely no hallucinations, he concluded. Unless I was hallucinating the headaches. So, yeah, adrenochrome is complete bullshit. It doesn't make, it has nothing, it's not even real. It's not real at all. Right. Yeah, like you said, okay, Sean Neal, but you're talking about DMT. It's not even, yeah, apparently, this is what they're trying to say that it does to you, I've never done DMT, but apparently it has, like, really vivid and wild, trips where you see, like, fucking aliens and talking mushroom people and shit. And apparently, yeah, that's what they're trying to claim that's what adrenochrome does to you. And it's, like, not even close in real life. Right? So, and this is kind of, kind of want to nail that point home is that, anybody who actually bothered to research this stuff, one day of research, not even like, you don't have to spend weeks and weeks going through books in a library or any shit like that. This information is out there on the internet for anybody to find, All it takes is a little bit of effort. And these guys, the people that believe this shit, they don't put in that effort. They never will. And that's the thing with conspiracy theorists, right? Conspiracy theorists are lazy. Okay? They are. All right? So this is what they'll always say to you. When you try to argue with a conspiracy theorist, this is what they say. They'll say, you need to go out and find the truth, right? They'll say shit like, I'm just putting the truth here. You can choose to believe it or not believe it. It's not my fault if you don't want to go find, do your own research and find out, blah, blah, blah. They'll try to spin it like that they spent all of this time. They'll try to make you think that they spent all this time, like digging for the truth and finding all of this, like, hidden shit everywhere and reading through tons of books and, investigating stuff. And in real life, they don't investigate shit. Conspiracy theorists, people who believe this shit, do not investigate anything, right? They never do. Will they read a book? Maybe. If it's about the conspiracy, probably, maybe. They might skim it, right? But all of this information comes from YouTube videos and Facebook posts and fucking places like 4chan, right? This is where all of this shit comes from, like, this is where all of this shit comes from. There is no research, no, like, because all it would really take, if they were to actually research it, they would find that it's not true, right? And that, conflicts with their worldview. And since it conflicts with their worldview, then that must mean that information is, somehow compromised. That's another thing that you'll get from conspiracy theorists, Anything that goes against the greater narrative must mean that, that source of information has been compromised by the conspiracy. So they'll say, oh, well, you'll post something and it'll be from CNN. And they'll be like, I don't believe that. CNN is part of the, why? Why don't they believe that piece of news? That, oh, shit. Right. Like, you'll post a story about something, and they'll say, I don't believe that because it came from CNN, and CNN is run by blah, 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 blah. It's run by the Bilderbergers, or it's run by the fucking Rothschilds, or whatever, right? And because that news source is not trustworthy to them, right, then suddenly that must mean that it's, part of the conspiracy. They must be in on it. Everything that is counter to their narrative is part of it, right? That's the mentality here. And it's just so fucking convenient. God damn it. Okay, something's wrong with this. This one's not working. Do I have any more lead in here? Shit, I don't. But luckily, I have another pencil. I don't know why this particular piece of lead for some reason is like too small or some shit. Like, I try to put pressure on it. Yeah, see. I think it's probably because it's the last one, but that's okay. I have a whole nother pencil here. We can just continue with that. I came prepared today, guys. I started on time. I even put my pictures on the computer today before the stream. I'm very proud of myself. Anyway, you know, that's something to keep in mind. It's like, this is and it's very much akin to how hyper religious people think. You know, um, anything that goes against their dogma must be, put there by Satan. Right? It's kind of like, like talking to people. Like you'll talk to super religious people about evolution or whatever, and there'll be people that really believe that, Satan put dinosaur bones in the earth in order to trick people, you know in order to challenge people and bring them away from Christ and stuff. This is the same shit. It's like, oh well, you're only seeing this article on this, from the news or whatever, because those guys are in on the conspiracy. They're drinking the baby adrenochrome and slurping the infant blood also. So this is what we're dealing with, right? Anyway, is that what it was? Dynacat. I thought they. That's interesting. I thought they thought adrenochrome was a youth serum. Is that? Yeah. You know what? You're actually correct. That's the. Among other things, like they, it's part of a satanic conspiracy, right? It allows them to stay young. You're correct there. They also get high off of it, and it's part of the freaking Satan worshiping aspect. So, psychoactive drugs have always been sort of tied to the occult, which I don't really understand why they have. I mean, I've done acid a couple of times. I don't know if you guys have ever partaken of hallucinogens in the past. I mean, I've done LSD. I did mushrooms a couple of times. They don't really, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why everybody thinks they're so evil. I didn't see angels and demons. I didn't think that I could jump off a building and fly. It was a good time, right? I think there was one time where like shit got really crazy or whatever, but at no point whenever, and it's been 25 years. I mean, seriously, since I've even done any of this shit, right? At no point though did I ever lose control. At no point did I ever like think I was on another planet or think that I was Spider-Man and I could like jump off a building or, you know what I mean? Like it's never like, I don't know why that, I guess maybe some people can't handle it and they lose control and think they're on another planet or some shit. I never did. I never thought I saw demons or angels or, had superpowers or was in another universe or whatever the fuck that was. Like, I always was in control and knew that I was just tripping balls and, watching plants go all weird and stuff. Right? So maybe I just had some weak shit. Maybe that's what it was. I mean, I don't know. I don't even think I can handle it nowadays. I mean, I think the last time I did LSD, I was like fucking 19, I think. I mean, now I can't even, I don't know. I barely even drink anymore. I'm such a lightweight, when it comes to this stuff. I can't even smoke weed anymore, believe it or not. Which sucks because it's like legal now and I have a ton of it in my like fridge as of this moment. I actually have like a shitload of marijuana. I have more now than I've ever had in my entire life. I don't even smoke it anymore. It's like I can't handle inhaling the smoke. Like we made some muffins out of it or whatever, and even that, like if I eat some of the muffins, like that fucks me up really bad and I can't even do anything for the rest of the night. That's like how much of a lightweight I am now. Anyway, let's get on with the stream here. Where are we at? Oh, we're about an hour in. Okay. So, let's more about QAnon. Getting back to the subject, who exactly is QAnon? Where did it come from? Well, so it started on 4chan, right? And we really don't know who the first person was to actually post any of the QAnon shit, right? The thing about 4chan and 8chan and all those sorts of image boards, they're anonymous. You know, they're mostly. I mean, apparently there are ways where you can find out who people are and shit like that, but they're mostly anonymous, right? And you can pretty much post anything you want there, and nobody has any way of knowing anything about it, right? So we don't even really know, because after this there was, what they call Q drops, right? And people would make posts and drop videos, stuff like that. We don't even really know if it was all the same person who was doing it. Most likely it wasn't. Most likely it was just a group of people who were like just trolling, right? Just trolling people, posting random bullshit, Q drops, QAnon drops, right? And the thing is that they just got more and more radical, and well, I guess reactionary, more and more reactionary, more and more racist, right? They started calling for people's executions, shit like that, and eventually this migrated off of 4chan itself, right? And it moved to a similar board called 8chan, which is now 8kun. Okay. 8chan is pretty infamous because several mass shooters posted their manifestos there. The Christchurch shooting and a couple others. In fact, one of the guys actually live streamed himself shooting up a mosque. Live streamed it to 8chan. So this is the kind of place we're talking about here. 8chan is very, infamous for that kind of thing. It's infamous for fucking child porn, right? People keep posting child porn there. Yeah, so kind of, the worst of the worst hangs out. Like the people that are too extreme that get kicked out of 4chan, they go to 8chan, 8kun, right? And the leading theory is that the guy who runs it, his name is what the fuck is his name? Jim Watkins, right? He's the administrator of 8kun, lives in the Philippines, and he has lots of different businesses. He started off with Asian porn sites in the late 90s, right? And then he took over 2channel, which was the Japanese inspiration for 4chan, which is like, so 2channel was like an image board, and I don't know if they're still around or what, but the rumor is that Jim Watkins stole the site somehow. I don't know how you steal a fucking website, but that's the rumor, right? Apparently he gained control of the domain and the servers, and but we don't know if it was like, a partnership with the previous owner, or if it was just, he just seized it somehow. Who knows, right? Anyway, so QAnon essentially migrated over to 8kun, and the theory is that this guy Jim, or else his son Ron Watkins, were the people that were keeping it going, whether or not they were actually making the posts themselves, or encouraging the people that were or were in contact with other people who were making the posts or something like that. But these guys apparently are behind it. And they are also profiting from it as well by selling QAnon merchandise. Right? So, yeah, that's, that's where QAnon is now, right? And now, how are these people, like, adjusting? Because right now, they're all kind of falling apart. QAnon is starting to kind of, lose it here. I'm sure you've all seen this video, right? Here's a video here of a very confused woman. I don't know if you've seen this. She's very sad and crying. God damn it, let me try to get, there we go. This has gone viral. This is out there. This poor woman who's like very upset that Biden was sworn in. And let me go ahead and turn this one on here.
President Trump, if you see this, please save us. I don't even see our American flag anymore. mind is talking with some kind of crazy flag. This is America. This is our land. Please, President Trump. Please, please, I hope you have a plan. God, please save us. Save us from the devil, please. Y'all, I'm about to have a panic attack. This is our country. Our country. This is awful. God, please save us, please.
Now, a lot of people are laughing their asses off at this woman, right? I'm not laughing. I mean, yeah, you know, your first reaction when you see something like this is to make fun of it. You know, like, oh my god, don't tell me I'm out of fucking pencil lead in this one, too. Are you fucking serious? Oh, okay, hang on a second, guys. I have another pencil here. Damn. I guess I gotta make a trip over to the fucking Staples and get some more pencil leads. Anyway, you know, now, you know, your first reaction when you see that is like, you know, oh, this is cringe, all that other shit, right? And yeah, you want to kind of rub it in a little bit, you know, especially the hell that these people put all of us through for the last 5 years, you know. And it's compounded by the fact that they believe in complete and utter bullshit. So it's like, for their ridiculous conspiracy theory beliefs, you know, they supported a guy who did incredibly awful things, you know. But I don't want to make fun of that woman. I feel sorry for that woman. Right? I do. I feel very, I feel really sorry because, you know, that woman right there is going through, you know, it's a crisis of faith right there. And this can be real trauma. It can be real trauma, right? And I think it's the wrong move to taunt people like her, right? I think it's perfectly acceptable to taunt other people who are assholes like the Proud Boys and shit like that. Right? Or other people who are just crying and butthurt over the election still, white supremacists, those kinds of things. But that poor lady right there, I mean, you watch that video, you know, someone doesn't have a panic attack, right? Because the president didn't get elected. If they're not believing, you know, like she probably really does believe, you know, that the government has been taken over by child raping cannibals, satanic cannibals. She probably really does believe it, you know. Here's the thing about that woman. She's going to wake up tomorrow, you know, after she went and had her panic attack and all of that stuff, right? And her life is going to be exactly the same as it was. Oh, yeah. She gut me like a fish. You're right. You're right, Sean, but, you know, I'll address that. But let me make this point, though. She's going to wake up tomorrow. Her life is going to be the exact same as it was as the day before Biden was, you know, sworn in. Nothing's going to change in this woman's life, right? She's not going to wake up tomorrow and finally see an army of, you know, Satan worshippers running around in the streets kidnapping all the children. None of this shit's going to happen. And it's going to slowly one day dawn on this woman how ridiculous it was for her to lose her mind over this. She's going to, you know, this is what'll happen, because there's only so long that you can believe in bullshit, right? But there is also an alternative. Something else may happen. She may, you know, adapt her belief, and it may take a much more religious overtone. You know, she's already, I mean, you saw the video, right? She's just like, please, God, and all this other stuff, right? You know, help us, God, right? So this woman is already religious. And it's going to fold over, all of this stuff is going to just fold over into, and it's going to become a religion, more so than it actually is, right? And that's what I mean by all of this. That's what I mean when I say that the predictions have now become prophecy. One day, she's going to continue to believe that there are evil satanic pedophiles out there and that secretly run the world or whatever, right? And one day, the good guys are going to win, right? And that's really, I think, the biggest tragedy here out of all of this, is that people like her, I don't want to say this woman specifically, but people like her, they act depending on these really ridiculous beliefs, and the things they're called to act on aren't always the best for the country, right? She will most likely continue to vote Republican. She will most likely continue to stand in the way of and not support policies that would directly benefit her or her friends, right? She's most likely still going to believe things like universal health care, for example, is a commie plot put in by, Satan worshippers and blah, 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 blah. And I think the best that we can do at this point for somebody like this woman, right, is to, engage, right? Engage and try to, I guess, mitigate the most wacky of said beliefs. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we'll ever be able to say, get a person like that and make her convince her to become progressive, for example. I don't think that'll ever happen, right? I don't think that person will ever vote for anybody except, a bizarre right-winger, right? I don't think she'll ever truly stop believing any of the shit that she believes now, right? But I think that we have an opportunity now that we've shown that, hey, all of this crap that you guys are predicting, it didn't happen. Maybe now, why is that, right? I think now maybe we could, if, let's say that person had relatives, right, or friends or relatives who were liberals or progressives or something, they could engage that woman right now, and there's an opportunity for her to reassess some of those beliefs. And maybe next time, a demagogue comes along, she might not be so quick to jump on the bandwagon, right? I think that's the best we're going to get. I don't think we'll ever truly be of one mind with people like that. I don't think we'll ever really, God, this pencil sucks. I don't think we'll ever really get them to buy into the progressive agendas that we have, But I think we could cut down some of their resistance. We could convince them that, hey, the stuff that you believe is bullshit, right? Maybe you were wrong about this other stuff too. Maybe you were wrong about cutting taxes on corporations, right? Maybe you're wrong about separating children from their, from their parents or whatever at the border, right? Or starting wars in the Middle East, or, drone bombing the families of, the civilian families of terrorists, things like that. Maybe you're wrong about this stuff. Maybe we can convince them that, universal healthcare ain't so bad. Or, student loan debt relief isn't a bad thing. Isn't a commie step towards a commie takeover of the country. Shit like that. I think it makes a window, right? Because, and we have a limited time to do this, because already the QAnon shit is already starting to adapt, right? This is where QAnon is at now. It's already starting to, evolve again, because the storm never happened. Trump left office. Biden is now the president, right? And kind of like a religion does, every time, like, say, for example, the Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know if any of you guys are Jehovah's Witnesses, please, no offense, at what I'm about to say, but the Jehovah's Witnesses had the same thing. They would predict the end of the world would come over and over and over, and the end of the world would never come, and they would always have to reassess their beliefs. And at first it was going to be 1914, right? That's when the rapture was going to come, and then World War One starts or whatever, but the rapture doesn't show up, and then it was going to be like in the 50s or the 70s or whatever, and then the 80s, and then it would just never come. And now you notice that Jehovah's Witnesses don't try to predict the end of the world anymore like they used to. Right now it's become a prophecy. It's just become, well, it's some point out there in the future Jesus is going to come back and blah 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 XYZ, right? That's what's happening to QAnon now. So these are the leading wacky theories that I'm seeing out there. I got another picture here for you guys. Let me see if I can find it. It has to do with, let's see, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. This is one that I saw because I like to go to Twitter to taunt Matt Gaetz, because Matt Gaetz is a walking pile of donkey shit stuffed into a $3 suit. So since I can't tell Trump to fuck off on Twitter anymore, I like to go there and now I tell Matt Gaetz to fuck off. Right? And this was one of the replies that I saw. Okay, you guys might as well escape those walls. The corporation no longer exists and we know it. We know Bees and Og was not legit, so why stay and wallow with the slimmers? Right? So what the fuck is this person talking about, right? It's almost like another language, you got to know how to, if you know how to decode it, it makes sense. Okay. The corporation no longer exists. What does she mean by that? So this is the idea, which has also come out of QAnon, that the United States is over, right? And what was known as the United States before Donald Trump was in fact a corporation called the United States of America. And what Donald Trump did was to dissolve the corporation, right? So this is how Donald Trump can win when, can still win when he loses the election and leaves office and loses more than 60 court cases and and there's no proof that the election was stolen, blah, 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 blah. This is how Donald Trump still wins, right? So the corporation is gone. So what the fuck does this come from? This idea that there was a corporation of the United States, right? This comes from the sovereign citizen movement. So if you don't know what sovereign citizens are, Sovchits, right? They're another wacky group of insane right-wing conspiracy theorists. And what they do is they misinterpret laws that, and they basically think they treat laws that you would the same way you would treat magic spells in Dungeons and Dragons. That's what sovereign citizens do, right? They think that if you that laws are written in such a way that if you just follow these certain procedures, write these certain letters, display these certain symbols on your license plates and shit like that, that you can get tons and tons of money and be immune to all of the laws that, apply to everybody else. And you don't really need a driver's license because you're a, blah, 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 and you can carry your guns and you don't have to pay taxes and all this other shit, right? Sovereign citizenry is, we could actually devote an entire stream to it, but it basically, the idea, it comes down to the fact that, not the fact, but the wacky, insane conspiracy theory, that your legal name is a legal fiction and it's not actually you. So when you get a letter, for example, let's say you get a summons to go to court, that summons is not actually applying to you, it's applying to the legal fiction. Let's say your name is Tom Smith, then the summons is actually summoning the legal fiction of Tom Smith, and you are not actually Tom Smith. And the idea is that, okay, then the government has what's called a straw contract when you're born, right? And straw contract has to do with like maritime law in the fucking 17th century or some shit, you know, that whenever a ship was birthed or whatever, and so they're claiming that your birth certificate is really like, you know, taken from that, and it's like you're birthing the same way that a ship is birthed and all of this other shit. And then when you actually go to court, if it has a flag that has a fucking fringe on it, then that means this is a maritime court, so maritime law applies. And you'll see videos of these guys, like if the judge gets up and walks away for something, like if there's a recess or whatever, then they'll say shit like they'll go man overboard, and that means that they've somehow taken over the court, and like they can make the ruling themselves. And it's wacky as fuck. It's wacky as ridiculous, you know. Yeah, and I encourage you, if you guys are into this stuff, like I encourage you to watch. There's videos on YouTube of sovereign citizens inside courtrooms. It's wacky. It doesn't make any sense. It's kind of hilarious. And like they'll say this shit, like the judge will get up and they'll go man overboard, and then they'll like make the ruling in their own favor, and then they'll fucking leave. And then they wonder why like a warrant gets put out for their arrest. It's because you can't just fucking leave a courtroom, right? And so that's what it is. It's sort of like applying misinterpretations of archaic laws and treating them like they're fucking cheat codes in a video game or magic spells. It's ridiculous. You'll see sovereign citizen license plates driving around. In fact, you know what? Let's just do quick Google for that, because it's kind of funny. Right. It's kind of funny. Let's just kind of there'll be license plates that look like this, right? And even in Los Angeles, I'll see these around. Private. This is one that you see a lot. And a whole bunch of just weird little shit like this. It'll say government. It'll say exempt. It'll be like a bunch of numbers that have no fucking meaning. All of this stuff, and it's because they read some stupid book or went on some fucking dumbass website or whatever that told them that they don't need to register their car. They don't have to pay the registration fees on it. This pencil sucks. Right? Stuff like that. And then, then they wonder when they get pulled over. When they get pulled over and they get the ticket, they don't go because the ticket's written for the legal fiction that's them and it's not really them, and they won't get driver's licenses and all of this other shit. It's ridiculous, and that's where that comes from. This idea that, the United States is a corporation, and then Trump fucking ended the corporation and all of this shit. So it's already starting to evolve. That's one way that I've seen. One avenue that it's begun to evolve is in that direction. Another avenue, this is even wackier, believe it or not, is the Shadow Prez avenue. And I have a picture of this too. This one is like the Shadow Prez is like did I save this one? I really hope that I saved it. Here we go. Shadow Prez. This is some funny fucking shit. Okay. All right, let's turn this on. All right. The plan was enacted over the weekend. Is there a way that I can make this smaller? There we go. All right. Because I want to make sure I get this all on the screen there. Okay. The plan was enacted over the weekend, only you never saw it. Ooh. Biden, his cabinet, and tons of both Democrats and Republican senators and other officials were arrested. Proof of their vast crimes was shown. They were court-martialed and found guilty. I like how, you can be court-martialed even though you're not in the military. However, it was decided this was too much for the American people to accept, overturning the election and showing the crimes of these politicians would lead to civil war. So an agreement was reached. Biden and other deep state elements will be allowed to move freely and serve their terms. What? Seriously, but you didn't. Anyway, would be allowed to move freely and serve their terms. President Trump would concede in quotes, and leave office, but this is all for appearances. Behind the scenes, Donald J. Trump is still president. This plan, known as Shadow Prez, was seen as a last resort, but it worked. Anything that happens in the next 4 years is actually President Trump's doing. Oh, Shadow Prez. It's like a superhero. He's the president that Gotham needs. Shadow Prez to the rescue. Holy fucking shit, that's funny. Now, is that a troll? I hope that's a troll. I can't. I really hope that that shit's not real. What we just read, because that's the wackiest, most ridiculous, horrible, idiotic load of ridiculous bullshit that. I don't know. Do people really believe this shit? I think yes. I think people really do. And I know because, you know, I used to be really into this stuff. People do believe it. Somebody out there, you know, even if that was a troll, even if whoever wrote this Shadow Prez thing, right, meant it as a complete troll, somebody out there is going to buy it. I guarantee you. And I guarantee you someone else is going to repost that. And they're going to, and somebody out there right now really thinks that Joe Biden is taking his orders from Donald Trump. Or even worse, Joe Biden actually is Donald Trump. And that's the last little bit of this. There's people posting shit out there where either Donald Trump and Joe Biden have switched faces, you know, just like in Face Off, you know, and that Biden is actually really Trump, or that they've somehow switched bodies with some kind of like alien mind switching machine, you know, and that's the third evolution of QAnon, that, you know, Biden is in on it, right? Biden is either in on it the whole time, right? He's either taking his orders from Trump, or he somehow is Donald Trump. Not a joke. Yeah, it's ridiculous, it's horrible, it's stupid, it's idiotic. But this is what fucking people believe. This is what we're dealing with in this country, you know, like, I don't know, like, do people in other countries have this level of insanity in their, I mean, I know that conspiracy theories and wackery and religious nuts and stuff like that are not confined to the United States. I know they're everywhere. They're in Europe, they're in Asia, they're in Africa, you know, they're in Russia a lot. You know, Russia has like almost the same kind of problem we have. I know there are crazy people everywhere, but is it to the same level that you see in the United States, or what? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it is. It seems like Europe has crazy people, but everybody acknowledges that they're nuts, and they just don't gain the same kind of power that they do here. I mean, I don't know, like, maybe. I don't know a lot about it. Is that true? Anyhow, it just seems like other countries like Japan and Europe and, you know, the countries, you know, like Great Britain and you know, the Netherlands and all those places, like, it seems like that they're just much more capable of educating their citizens. And even the wacky people there who are into weird, ridiculous conspiracy theories, even those people aren't as insane as they are in the United States, you know? It just, that's what it seems to me. Like, seems like we have the craziest of the crazy, is what I'm trying to say. So, I don't know. I maybe that's because of the education system in this country is so fucking backwards and ridiculous, which is, you know, because of conservatives. That's why. If you ever want to complain about education, talk to the conservatives. They're the ones that make it that way. But, you know, we can talk about that in a different stream. Anyhow, so yeah, this is just, I don't know, man. I think, you know, when we see people who have gone off the deep end and are sitting there crying, right, we should have a little bit of compassion for those people. Now, I know, like you just said there, Sean, you know, you said this woman would gut me like a fish, and you're right. You're right. She would. If given the chance, this woman most likely, I don't know her specifically, but people like her, they were behind the riot on on January 6th. They were ready to rise up in the streets and take over the country and murder elected officials, including their own vice president who they voted for. They were ready to engage in political violence in order to support this wacky fucking conspiracy theory, right? And I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware that, this compassion would not be reciprocated at all, right, to me. My problem is there's too many of them. There's too many, a very large number of Republicans like believe that I don't have the poll in front of me, but the last time I saw it, it was a very large number believe that there may be something to QAnon, unfortunately. And it was more than like 20%. It was like, I don't think it was more than 50, but it was a shitload. I can't remember exactly. I'll have to look it up. And that's the disturbing part, because that translates into millions of people, so 74 million people voted for Donald Trump. Not all of them are Q-tip people, QAnon people. Not all of them, right? Obviously, but how many? A significant portion, millions of those people, right? I wouldn't even say half. I think even half is too much. But even if it was a fifth, that still translates into what? 14, 15 million people? Right? That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people who believe in very bad things and will act accordingly, whether that's through voting, whether it's through taking whatever actions up to and including violence. People do really weird things when it comes to their religion, right? People do irrational things. People commit murder because of their religion, because they think that, this person is a sorcerer, or this other person is a Satan worshiper, or this guy is kidnapping children for blah, 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 blah. People will go and they'll do this shit, and they'll do it without any proof, right? How many stories do you hear coming out of, say, Africa, for example, of people getting, lynched because they're accused of sorcery? That shit happens all the time, right? In places like Nigeria and that kind of thing, right? They even happen in Europe now because of immigration. There was an article I read about a child who was basically beaten to death because of perceived actions that related to Kanduki, right? So Kanduki is sorcery, and it was just, and you see shit like this in the United States all the time too. A child gets abused and beaten to death because their parents think that the child is possessed by demons, right? You see it all the time, this kid, they took him to and this happens in South America, it happens everywhere, the kid has, and the kid might have psychological problems, the kid might have schizophrenia, something like that, or, schizophrenia, or, some other issue like that, and the parents are fucking, hyper-religious, insane rednecks or whatever, and they just fucking, beat her over and over again, trying to beat the devil out of her, and end up trying to exorcise her, dunking her head into water, crap like that, trying to get rid of the fucking demons, and they just end up killing her, right? It happens constantly. So people do shit like this. Like, what kind of actions are in the future do we have to look forward to? Once QAnon actually turns into a bona fide religion, right? What are we gonna have to worry about then? Mass shootings, politicians being assassinated, You know, children being kidnapped from their parents. That's another one. You know, these are people that think that kids are being shipped in fucking IKEA cabinets, for crying out loud. That's part of it too, right? You know, that's another ridiculous thing that nobody with a brain would believe. You know, the idea that you can buy a cabinet from a website on an internet and they'll ship a live child to you, right, in this cabinet. Like, that's fucking ridiculous as hell. And all it would take is, dude, just buy a cabinet then. See if it's true. If you get a cabinet with a fucking kid in it, then you know it's real, right? That's the most easily debunkable things ever. And they don't get debunked because, like I said, conspiracy theorists are lazy. They don't research things, right? They don't care about researching things because it's not about actual information. That's another thing, right? Conspiracy theories are not about information. It's not about being right on things or making sure you've researched everything and you have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, shit like that. It's not about that. It's not about, like, do you actually, you know, it's about feeling good, right? That's what conspiracy theories ultimately boil down to. You know, this information matches with my worldview, right? It makes me feel good and I want to spread it. And it feels good to think that you have the super secret information that other people don't have, right? It gives you a feeling of power, right? It makes the world, you know, the world makes sense after that. It makes you think that you are somehow special, that, you know, you have answers that nobody else has, right? And it gives you a cause to advocate for. That's another thing that conspiracy theories do, right? So how many times do you see these fucking people on the internet, you know, crying about this shit, saying, go out and research it. You need to know, wake up, sheeple, right? All this other crap, you know. And it never occurs to them why, you know, why is it that nobody ever gets arrested? None of these people that they say, sorry, I need some water. Oy. You know, none of these people that they accuse of doing all of these crimes ever get busted, right? None of the secret alien bases or you know, covens, secret covens of witches or whatever ever get exposed, right? And it doesn't, you know, why doesn't it occur to these people that, like, there's never any follow-up, you know? If there really was a coven of evil Satan worshippers in Washington who kidnap children on a regular basis, torture them in a dungeon underneath a fucking pizza shop or whatever, and harvest their fucking, you know, adrenal glands, right? Pineal glands, whatever fucking gland it is, right? If that was true, and this happened all the time, there's only a matter of time before something like that would be exposed. Somebody would talk. Okay, and that's another thing that doesn't make any sense. It's like, you know, a conspiracy theory with thousands of fucking people has thousands of leaks, right? You know, you can't even keep, like, the plot to the next fucking Star Trek show secret, right? You can't even keep the plot to the next Marvel movie secret in this country, right? People leak shit all the time. People like to leak things, right? You couldn't, you know, how many times did we see over the last 4 years, like, shit would get leaked from the Donald Trump White House? Constantly, over and over. They could not keep secrets at all, you know? And it's like that with pretty much everything. It always gets leaked. Sometimes they even leak it themselves, you know, like, they'll have a policy, and they'll just be like, oh, leak this to the press, because they want to see the reaction to it. You know what I mean? So it's like, now you're trying to say that, yeah, every, like, Democratic politician and major, like, celebrities and all this other stuff, you know, managed to keep all of this shit secret about their evil fucking satanic, you know, baby fucking cannibalism, raping fucking, you know, ring, right? They managed to keep all of this shit secret, and it must be thousands of people involved in this. Nobody wants to talk. Are you fucking serious? it doesn't make any sense, you know, right? And that's like, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And you would think that, you know, you would be able to see this and understand, like, you know, 2 seconds of thinking about it should turn anybody off and make you doubt it. But these people don't think about it. You got to keep that, you know, they're not actually thinking about what it all would actually mean if it was real in real life. You know, what would have to happen in order for it to stay secret in real life. They're not thinking about any of that the same way they don't research any of it, you know, because it's not about what's actually true. You know, it's about what makes you feel good, right? That's all conspiracy theories are. You know, real education doesn't give a shit about, you know, it doesn't feel good. You don't feel good when you actually learn something in real life. You know, if you take a class or a course on something, you don't, like, you know, get an emotional reaction off of learning something from a textbook when it's actual real facts. You know, the only emotional reaction you get is, oh, I didn't know that. Right? But these people, it's like a drug, you know. Conspiracy theories are like a drug. They go and they watch a YouTube video, and Alex Jones is telling them, like, you know, all of this stuff about people they hate, about politicians they hate, or whatever. And it's like you get an endorphic reaction from watching this shit, because it's reinforced, and it's the same reaction that you get when you go to church. That's what it is. You know, you go to church, you worship, right? You sing your hymns or whatever. You read from the fucking Bible and the, you know, whatever the guy does. The guy gives a sermon, blah, blah, blah. Right? And it feels good. It feels like you're doing your duty, you know, that you're called to do as a believer. That's what's happening. You know, QAnon is a fucking religion. Conspiracy theories in general is a religion, you know. So, anyway. Let's see. Ah, shit. Where are we at here? An hour 30. So yeah, there was a couple of things. I wanted to talk about, but I'm not going to actually open any of these. I'll just put I'll copy the link address. Here's a news story I found about QAnon followers who were discussing dressing up in National Guard outfits and showing up at the inauguration. I was going to do a stream about the inauguration, but I think, you know, you're probably getting enough of that in the mainstream news. I will say I am happy that there wasn't any violence. I will say that. Because, you know, I was actually kind of worried. I was kind of worried, like, especially after the 6th. I thought the 6th was just a warm-up. And I thought these guys were going to come back, you know, on the inauguration. In fact, there was a lot of chatter out there in right-wing groups and white supremacist groups and shit like that about how they were getting ready to show up in Washington for the inauguration. And I'm kind of glad to see that didn't happen. And not only did it not happen there, I mean, I guess it's kind of hard because they had 20,000 fucking troops there. Right? So I guess, yeah, we didn't have to worry about that. But we also didn't really see any violence at any state capitals or anything like that. As a matter of fact, there really wasn't much in the way of protests at all. And I'm actually kind of happy to see that. This is a picture that I found. This is kind of what it looked like on, you know, where is it? Let me turn on my monitor here. This is kind of what we saw on the inauguration, right, around state capitals and stuff. And it was actually, I think, this shit's fucking hilarious. So, you know, one Trump supporter showing up at the New York state capitol, you know, and they were prepared, at least. They put up fences and shit. They probably had cops in there. You know, you can kind of see little cops in there, right? One guy showed up to protest. That's awesome. So I'm very happy that, you know, we didn't see an orgy of violence on Biden's inauguration. And I think what happened, right, is that they were ready to go, and the blowback from January 6th kind of took these people by surprise, right? I think that they were expecting, first off, more support from the general populace, right? You know, because they would think, oh well, 77 million people voted for Trump, you know, so that means half the country or whatever, which is not half the country. It's about, you know, a little less than a third of the country. But anyway, I think they were expecting more support from the general populace. I think they were not expecting the backlash, the media backlash so much. Like there was a serious backlash, right? And I also think that they were expecting Donald Trump to go to bat for them. And not just Donald Trump, but the rest of the Republican Party to kind of like defend them, right? And they didn't. And this is actually to the credit of the Republican Party. They immediately turned around. And, well, some people in the Republican Party, right? Because other ones did actually try to, you know, like Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz actually did, like, try to fucking excuse it. So fuck Ted Cruz. You know, Matt Gaetz is another one, right? So there were definitely people, you know, some senators and stuff like that have tried to, you know, ride the coattails of January 6th, and those people should be ejected from Congress, right? But other people like Mitch McConnell just like turned his back on this shit immediately and wasn't on board for it. And he actually wasn't even on board for, you know, objecting to the certification to begin with, right? And so it seems like, you know, a lot of Republicans actually kind of like, you know, noped out of that, right? And Trump himself kind of just completely threw these people under the bus. I think a lot of these people were expecting pardons from Donald Trump. He didn't pardon anybody. He didn't pardon the fucking lady that got maced, you know, the what's her name that we talked about in the last stream, the real estate owner. He didn't pardon that lady. He didn't pardon the QAnon shaman guy. He didn't pardon shit. You know, all those people who got busted, they're all getting, you know, and I think a lot of the MAGA types, a lot of the QAnon people really thought Donald Trump was going to, you know, hand out a bunch of pardons and give them the A-OK to show up on the 21st, and they didn't. And that's why, you know, now you're seeing people like the Proud Boys, for example, have turned against Donald Trump, which is fucking amazing. You know, there you go, the Proud Boy, the fucking Proud Boys, who just spent the last, you know, 4 years going out and like assaulting BLM people and going to protests, you know, and fucking murdering people, right, in the name of Donald Trump, right? Those guys turned against him. You know, when there was the debate and like Donald Trump kind of gave a shout out to the Proud Boys, you know, he said stand back and stand by. And you know when that happened? Their membership took off like crazy after that. And you know, so they were like primed and pumped and ready to go out there and brawl in the streets. And I really think that if he were allowed to give the signal, like if he were to give a signal to them, you know, to say to go out there, like, I think they would have done it. I think they would have showed up with their fucking guns. And maybe not in Washington, but maybe some state capital, most likely, you know, Oregon, right? Or Washington, up there, the Pacific Northwest, right? Because that's like the fucking white supremacist, like, wannabe homeland. That's where they want to, that's where the white nationalists want to make their ethno-state, is in the Pacific Northwest. I think that's, you know, that's why you always see these protests and shit and violence showing up in Portland, you know, up there, Oregon and in Washington, whatever, right? And I think they would have done it, and now they turned against him because, you know, now they're calling him weak, and that's like, you know, and a lot of this had to do with him getting banned from social media. Like, Lewis the Hedgehog, how you doing? Yeah, I noticed he said, you know, Trump was banned off Twitter. Exactly. A lot of this had to do with Trump getting kicked off social media. And I'm really happy to see that it wasn't just Trump that got kicked, right? It's not like they didn't just blame Donald Trump for what happened, right? Social media, I think, correctly understood that it was the Trump followers. Like, he was the one who was enabling a lot of followers, and they kicked a lot of QAnon people off. They kicked a lot of just conservatives in general. They got rid of a shitload of bots, because that's another thing, is that there were just tons and tons of bots out there who would either repost shit or were like just Twitter bots, and who knew who were running them? You know, were they fucking bots being controlled by like Russian troll farms or some shit? You know, we knew that was already a thing, that, you know, groups like the Russians, for example, you know, like Putin's troll farms, were specifically doing it in order to sow civil unrest in the United States. I mean, we've known that since before 2016. You know, it's not like those guys ever went away. I mean, they helped them get elected to begin with. You know, so finally, and the thing is, Twitter, you know, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, these guys know what a fucking bot is. They know which accounts are fake, which ones are real. They never did anything about it because they make money doing it. You know, they make money from these people, and that's why they never, you know, that's why they allowed it to get out of control. And now it's like, now that they dumped Trump, you know, you're seeing all these news articles about how they're losing money and shit like that. It's like, I think I might actually go buy some Twitter stock now. Right? I might actually go buy some, because they fucking did the right thing. And plus, since their stock is down, it's probably cheaper. You know, but still, it's like, this whole time they could have curtailed this shit years ago. And it's, you know, now I think they finally understand, like, shit, this is what happens when we just allow these fucking things to run rampant, you know. Like back in the web 1.0 days, you know, before social media, right? When all you had were chat rooms and bulletin boards and forums, things like that. You know, and white supremacists and white nationalists and racists would always show up on your bulletin board, right? And you'd have to kick them out, because once they got there, they would never go away. And I remember this because, you know, back in those early days, you know, I used to go and I'd hang out at various places. There was a board called Argue with Everyone that I used to go to. I used to love that because, you know, and, you know, it was my, you know, hobby that I do today. You know, the same sort of thing. I would go and I would argue with right-wingers, right? And this was during the Bush years and shit like that, right? You know, I'd go and argue with conservatives and Republicans and blah, 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 and talk about why Bush was insane, you know, shit like that, right? Basically the same shit I do today. And every time, you know, every single board I ever went to, every website I went to, every chat room I would ever go into, there would always, white supremacists would always show up. And they would either get kicked, they'd have to kick them out, and if they didn't kick them out, that board would become unusable. And within, you know, a year, it would be gone. Right? And that happened over and over and over. You know, every place that I would go to, because you would see places that would say, like, this is a free speech forum. You can say whatever you want. The only thing we moderate, you know, the only content we moderate is illegal content. You know, things like kiddie porn. That's the only thing that'll get you kicked. Every time that there would be a place like that, these fucking people would show up. You know, they would gravitate towards it. And I remember, because, you know, they would be like some big forum, and they get kicked off of that, and then they go to another one, they get kicked off of that one, and it's like, you know, and that's what you have to do. You know, deplatforming actually works. That's the thing. Okay, when you talk about, you know, this is why the right-wingers fucking hate deplatforming so much, right? Why it's like the worst thing ever for them, because it fucking works. Okay, when you kick somebody off of your platform, then those ideas don't get spread on that platform, and the people that are, you know, people on that platform don't get subject to this shit, and they have to go. And here's the thing, it's like, it's not censorship in the way that, you know, you could say it's self-censorship, right? Well, sometimes you need to have a little bit of self-censorship, because this is an example of what happens when you don't have that kind of moderation, when you don't control, hate speech, content for hate speech, right? Specifically, when you don't control it, this is what happens. It gets out of control, and before you know it, there's fucking like an army of deluded right wingers trying to steal a fucking election because they think the election was stolen from them, even though they had zero proof and 60 court cases that said otherwise. Right? So, so when it comes to like, yeah, kicking like, and I think, that was a wake up call that these companies were even going to apply this to a world leader. Donald Trump was a world leader, That was part of the reason why Twitter never kicked him. They would always like, they'd put like a little correction or something saying, Donald Trump would say some ridiculous, untrue bullshit, and then they would say, this is not true, or whatever. Or the content of this tweet is disputed. Even that drove the Trump people up the wall. Even the fact that Twitter had the audacity to fact check the president drove them fucking nuts. They called that censorship too. That's not censorship either, right? That's not even close to fucking censorship. They should have been doing that from the very fucking beginning. As a matter of fact, they should do it on all tweets. Of course, there's no fucking way they can. There's way too many tweets for them to moderate them all. But maybe once you get a certain number of followers, you should get fact-checked. I don't see a problem with that. That'll keep people like fucking Ted Cruz and Charlie Kirk, and fucking, Ben Shapiro and people like that in Prager University. It would keep all those assholes from spreading their fucking stupid lies, right? And if it was just the thing that, if you get more than, 1 million followers, you get fact-checked. Perfectly fucking acceptable. That's not preventing you from spreading your message, right? And, it's not even like deleting your fucking tweet or whatever, or your YouTube video, and this is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to make these decisions. It's like, this is the downside of social media, is that it radicalizes people, right? It, it forms echo chambers where you just get reinforcing material over and over and over that has, and if anything, this past January, this past election, in fact, this past fucking administration has shown us what happens when you don't have a check on that. So I get behind that in a nanosecond myself, because it's too late. We can't get rid of social media. It's already ingrained into our society, not, let alone our fucking economy, right? It's ingrained into our society. There's no going back. So we're going to have to come up with, some kind of common sense measure, right, in order to mitigate the worst effects of it. So how do you do that? Somehow I think people will revolt if we try to pass a law saying that, social media has to fact check people. I think that'll be, I think people will fucking not go for that shit, but I don't see how we couldn't pressure these companies into doing that themselves. Right. I don't know. How can we go about that? I guess we could just start a fucking, I don't know what, some kind of feedback campaign, letter writing, some shit like that. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to, excuse me. Maybe that's an idea for the future. If we can get somebody who's good at organizing shit to get on that, that'd be nice. I'll donate some money and time to that cause. Anyway, fuck. Let's read some of your comments here since we're at 149. Let's see. Dynacat, first time on time. Hey, yes, I was. I was on time last time. My last stream. I was very happy about that. But today, I actually started early today. So that's cool. Dynacat, Kushner was probably the most competent person in the Trump administration, also the most corrupt. Yeah, that's sad. Kushner definitely is corrupt. I think we're going to be seeing, for years to come, we're going to be seeing stories about just how exactly corrupt the, incompetent and corrupt the Trump administration actually was. I think we've only really kind of gotten the tip of the iceberg, and I think there's going to be more scandals about how they specifically enriched themselves you know, whether or not it'll be done through legal means or less than legal means or whatnot, you know. Because more than anything, the Trump people are scam artists. That's what they are. They're grifters, you know. They're well, Republican politicians in general are grifters, right? I think that's the biggest difference between, you know, because people say all the time, you know, there's no difference between Democrats and Republicans. Well, really what it is, you know, the difference comes in your ideology, right? Because there are conservative Democrats and there's liberal Republicans, you know, there's not really any progressive Republicans, right? Not really, but and I think the biggest measure that you can put on people is like, well, Republican politicians tend to enrich themselves, you know, while Democrat, you know, or let me put it another way, conservative politicians tend to enrich themselves, while liberal progressives, you know, progressive politicians tend to more so look out for their actual constituents, right? So you only get, for example, conservatives only vote for shit when they know that if they don't do so, it'll make them look bad. And they only do that when they're up for re-election, you know. So this is why, you know, in the last, the Georgia election, you know, Kelly and Perdue, those two, the Republicans, they were both against $2,000 stimulus checks, for example. And then the polling said that people like $2,000 stimulus checks, so then they were suddenly for it. But then they were only for the checks once Mitch McConnell made it clear to them that the checks weren't going to pass. Then they came out and said we were for $2,000 stimulus checks, right? So basically, that's what it was. It was a, you know, every decision comes from a political calculus. Everything, like, for example, Mitch McConnell does. He calculates it. How does this benefit me? You know. So right now they're talking about impeaching Donald Trump for a second time. You know, well, he's already been impeached, but convicting him in the Senate for a second time. And McConnell is actually going to allow that vote to go through, right? Which it would be perfectly, you know, normally this would be something that would just be dead on arrival, and it would just never get there because, you know, right, of course, well, it's going to happen now because now he's not the Senate Majority Leader anymore, but even before, you know, he was forced to become the Senate Minority Leader. Even before that, he was privy to allowing this vote to go through, and it's like, why? Because there's a political advantage for him, you know. That's why. And it's like everything they do, you know, when it comes to conservative, it's always about what do I get out of this? And you even see the same thing in conservative Democrats. Right now there's Joe Manchin. He's a very, very, very conservative Democrat. He's essentially, you know, they call him Blue Dogs, right? Which the name Blue Dog is actually something that goes back like 100 years. Like, Blue Dog Democrat comes from Prohibition, way back. Even before Prohibition, the people who were advocating for Prohibition, they were called Blue Noses, you know, and they were Democrats, very highly conservative Democrats. Of course, back in that day, the Democrats were the conservative party, but, you know, anyway. So Joe Manchin is doing the same shit now. He's the one that, like, he held up. As soon as the new Congress came in, there was a vote to pass another $2,000 stimulus check, and Joe Manchin blocked it. Right? He's a Democratic Party, blocked it. You know, conservative Democrat. So it's like, there you go. It's not about what party you're in. It's about your, you know, it's about your ideology. And Joe Manchin right now is only like, he kind of has the power because he's, you know, there's a 50-50 split in the Senate, and he knows that nothing gets passed without him voting for it. Right? So now he's kind of like, well, what are you going to do for me? You know, if I allow this stimulus check to go through, what do I get in return? And he's doing, you know, and that's exactly what's going on. Like, that's how conservatives think. They wheel and deal. They don't do anything just because it's the right thing to do, you know. They don't and they don't really care about people. You know, somebody like AOC, you know, for example, doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff, and she'll vote for something because it's the right thing to do, you know, and she'll vote for something without getting any political benefit to herself, you know. She's one of the rare few people. We need more people like her. Right. So anyway, I don't know. Kind of went off on a tangent there, but anyhow. All right. Sean Nillabud. Individual ideas shoot through the right wing slits and then interfere with each other, producing bands of concentrated bad ideas. The ideas are from 4chan. A rational observer can't see the bands. Yes, that's definitely true. And what you said about 4chan is definitely true as well. A lot of what we end up talking about just on the internet originates in 4chan, right? 4chan has millions and millions of viewers. I mean, not viewers, but, you know, readers. You know, people that go there every fucking day, right? Subscribers, I don't even know. I mean, what do you call them? Users, I guess, right? 4chan, millions of people go to 4chan, so we only hear about the wacky shit that comes out of 4chan, you know, poll, and for example, white supremacists and that kind of thing. We only hear about that, but there's all kinds of other boards on 4chan, you know, there's everything from video games to music to books to, you know, philosophy and all of that stuff, right? And the other boards like tend to keep the white supremacists out as much as I've seen. You know, they'll leak over occasionally, sometimes into the gaming boards as well. But a lot of the memes that we discuss, you know, all comes from 4chan. A lot of the viral videos that get spread around, all that shit comes from 4chan. So it's like, you know, you're definitely correct that this is where a lot of, you know, especially in the last 10 years or so, it kind of started during the Obama years, you know, where they've kind of become a hotbed of conservative, you know, they've kind of almost become like a sort of online conservative think tank almost. You could say that. So you know, and it's not all college kids. It used to be all college kids when it first started. You know, teenagers, college kids, right? And now, yeah, a large portion of the user base there are people in their 20s who are young or whatever. But you're starting to see an increasing number of actual professionals that show up there. You know, so it's not inconceivable that somebody from, say, military intelligence or whatever might be a 4chan user. That's not inconceivable. So, anyway, I don't know. Let's move on. I call it quantum derp. Nice. Dedicat, get ad blocker ultimate. Well, see, the problem is if I turn on the ad blocker, then a lot of these news sites that I go to just won't display the article at all. You know, so I don't know. Does ad blocker ultimate get around that? Because if they do, then I'll use them. But that's the thing. It's like if I want to read it, then you got to put up with the ads. And like, fuck. They just put like too many ads on these things. Let's see. Okay, Dynacat. Millions of us are going to have to adjust to not dealing with a constant adrenaline rush with Trump gone. Yeah, it's already feeling way better to me right now. Just the fact that the person in charge right now, like I know, like for example, let's say if there was a terrorist attack right now, I know that our reaction to it would be rational. You know what I mean? Like if there was a 9/11 kind of event, you know, that happened right now. Somebody bombed a federal building or something. I know that with Trump in charge, there was always this danger that this feeling that he might just fucking go off the deep end and just like declare martial law and start rounding up people and executing people with fucking like, you know, anybody who was like not white enough. Right? Seriously, this was like, because who fucking, like, what if 9/11 happened when Trump was in charge? What the fuck would happen? Who even knows? They might, I don't know, it would, whatever what he would have done would have been the worst thing you could probably imagine. Right? I mean, fuck. And now, knowing that if that were to happen now, we would have a president who at least would have a measured, rational response to it, that makes me feel so much better. It's like, yeah, maybe he wouldn't like throw people in Guantanamo Bay immediately. Maybe he wouldn't go invade a country that had nothing to do with the actual attack. Right? Like, seriously, like, just knowing that that's there. And that, like, yeah, maybe he wouldn't go start, like, invade Iraq when the hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. Like, yeah, like, that makes me feel good. And it's like, just seeing, like, what happened last time, and that was, like, George W. Bush that did all of that shit, like, and compared to Trump, Bush is, like, 20 times better. I mean, I still, I'm not trying to rehabilitate George W. Bush's image, because he's a fucking war criminal and should have been thrown in prison for starting a war, with people who didn't attack us. But even, what I am saying is that if Trump were in charge, his decisions would have been 20 times worse than Bush's decisions. And it wouldn't just have been starting a war and torturing people in Guantanamo and throwing them in prison without trials. It wouldn't even have been that. It would have been way worse. Probably would have had fucking mobile execution vans going around the country, rounding up fucking Muslims and shooting them on the spot or something. That's probably what would have happened if Trump was involved. Just think of the worst white supremacist nightmare response to 9/11. That's what would have happened, if Trump was involved. And it's good to know that, now we don't have to worry about that. Now, if there's a disaster, right now, if a hurricane shows up and destroys Puerto Rico, we might actually get a decent, like, response from the federal government, for example. Right? It's good to know that. It's good to know that, like, the next time California burns down, which is probably going to happen this year, we might actually get some aid from the federal government, and, like, not have our president go on Twitter and, like, insult the state. Right? Like, maybe that won't happen, like, this time. So it's good to know that we actually have an actual fucking leader. Right? I guess that's what I want to say. We have a leader that actually gives a shit and isn't going to spend a third of his time in office playing fucking golf while, like, hundreds of thousands of people die from a disease and the economy implodes and the West Coast burns down and the East Coast fucking gets flooded under hurricanes. At least, we'll have a guy. He won't, at least, the very least, he won't be playing golf while all that shit happens. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I am a little bitter, man. I am a little bitter because it's like, none of this shit had to happen. And it's proof. It's proof of, the last 5 years is proof of what happens when you have really shitty leaders in place. People fucking die. How many people died now, from coronavirus while Trump was in charge? We hit 400,000, I think, a couple of days before the inauguration. There was one thing that I did wanted to show here. Let me see. One more picture, and then I think we're going to probably end this. Here we go. This came off of Reddit. And I am hoping that this is also a troll. President Trump, 1,462 days in office, 416,000 COVID deaths. Jesus Christ. And that is 285 COVID deaths per day average. Sleepy Joe Biden, 1 day in office, 4,385 COVID deaths, and that's a 385 day average. I hope this is a troll. I hope there really isn't anybody out there who is stupid and dumb enough to actually blame Joe Biden for 4,385 COVID deaths on his first day. If there are, whoever this person is just needs to be kicked in the nuts really hard, so hard that he'll never be able to breed and spread his fucking insanity to the next generation. Because this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And kind of goes to show, like, you know, that was one of the things I predicted, that suddenly the right wing was going to start caring about deaths from the pandemic again, because, you know, they just haven't cared over the last year. They just haven't given a fuck at all. And now they're going to start caring. They're going to start caring because, you know, a Democrat is in charge. Anyway, guys, I think I got to end this. So it's been about 2 hours. There's a lot of comments that you guys made, but you know what? I always read the comments after the stream, and I'm going to read these. And then if there's any that really stand out, I'll talk about them in the next stream. But I gotta get going because I'm like, my eyes are fucking hurting here, man. And besides, we're at the 2 hour mark anyway. But let's take a look at where we're at. Here's where we're at here. Actually making some good progress. I think we might have like 1 or maybe 2 streams left out of this, if I can get a pencil that works. So we're looking good. Let me go ahead and give you my final parting words that I have to do every stream. First off, I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sean Nillabud. Always good to see you. Thanks, Lewis the Hedgehog. You're great. Thank you, Dynacat. You are awesome. I think that's just you 3 guys that have chatted so far. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I know there's some other people in the stream, and if I didn't see you there, thank you for joining. Let me just go ahead and do my thing here. I have to show these things because I noticed that after every stream I get an uptick in traffic on stuff, so I have to do it. But anyway, if you really like the stream and you want to support me, you want to see more of my artwork, I have a DeviantArt site here that you can check out. It's at deviantart.com/Hawanja, and I'll put the links down into all of this stuff so you can see more of my work if you like it. I put a lot of comics here and, you know, other different, you know, more of my artwork, right? I also have a whole gallery. If you like the kind of work I'm doing in this stream, I have an entire gallery of similar type things, you know, demons and stuff like that, right? So please come check me out. It's at deviantart.com/Hawanja. If you want to support the channel and you like what I do and you want to see more of it, please consider buying something. I have an Etsy shop where I sell prints and things and little sculptures, that kind of stuff. These are all 11x17 coffee stained prints. Each one comes out a little different. This is a H.P. Lovecraft character, for example. Here's a couple of other ones. This is a Godzilla character. In fact, this is Godzilla, but you know, it's fan art, so I can get away with it. Here's another Lovecraft character here. You know, this one sells pretty good. So if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please check me out. It's at my Etsy shop. I will put the link down in the thing after the video publishes. Thank you so much. And if you want to see me talk about non-political stuff, I have another YouTube channel called UCD Videos. I talk about toys. I do gaming streams, talk about video games and movie reviews and stuff like that. So if you see me talk about things that are not politics, please check me out on UCD Videos. And I think that's pretty much it. So thank you all for joining once again. Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Lewis the Hedgehog. Thank you, Dynacat. You guys are awesome. And we will see you again next Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific. So, same bat time, same bat channel. All right, guys. I love you all, and I am out of here.